Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Lana Raymer. I am so excited to come to you today and have this little talk, have this little chat, little powwow about our responsibilities during this very challenging time and about the way we can manage our health and move forward in a much more informed and empowered way. These are truly unprecedented times, and there's so much going on. That's sort of just beyond the core issue of the pandemic. And I'm going to start with some sort of philosophical, digging deep kind of questions, and then we're going to jump into all of the different health practices. I have, like you can see, by this big pile of books and things in front of me that I'm going to be jumping into and sharing some of the most useful resources that I've found over the years of studying yoga and aromatherapy and herbalism and all these things. But one little note is to why this is done on Zoom versus doing it as a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live. I have been sort of noticing, and a lot of other health influencers, people who work in alternative health, holistic health, have been noting that a lot of the content that they've started to put out has been taken down. Including like blocking their accounts and things like that. There's a great almost war going out there on free expression of concerns, of questions, of like what is really going on, and then sharing some ways for people to become empowered in their health versus sort of feeding into the fear and feeding into the paranoia. So there's been a lot of really interesting stuff going on with Facebook and Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, censoring a lot of this information. And so because of that being the case, I have decided to do this call as a Zoom, and then I'll record it, I'll post it as an unlisted video and share it with people individually versus sort of sharing it publicly on Facebook. Because as I said, this type of content is being monitored and this type of content is being taken down very proactively by people who are in charge of these social media platforms. Social media as well as mass media have not been independent for a very, very long time. And it is becoming even more obvious during this time that we are dealing with this global crisis and global issues. So there are certain questions that I would like for you to sort of ask yourself in terms of the greater picture of what is happening out in the world. We have had these, cold and flu seasons every year for as long as I can remember. We've had different novel types of flus coming out and affecting. So what makes this one different? Why is it that we are on a lockdown? Why is it that the response to this one is so drastic? What is it setting the stage for? And what is this like a preparatory step for? Why is it that all individuals are treated equally? Those who take very good care of their health and are very proactive and empowered in taking care of their health, and then individuals who maybe do not take as much responsibility and as much ownership of their lifestyle and of their health. And sort of who is to benefit from generating so much fear and so much paranoia? There's two things that I encourage you to look into. One of them is Worldometer, and it's a website, and I'll post links to all of these things underneath the video so you guys can have access to all of these resources that I mentioned today. But it's a really fascinating website. It shows you real-time data on all of these, the population of the world, the births today, the deaths today, and like all these. And then if you scroll down to the health category, it also gives you information on breakdown of deaths by different categories. And so, the current, I just checked it right before the call, the current number for the world for the virus is about 161,000 cases. Then again, for the same period of time, we're having HIV deaths at over 500,000. Malaria is almost 300,000. right? That's compared to 161,000 of corona. Deaths from alcohol are 700,000. Suicides are over 300,000. And smoking is 1.5 million. So if you compare these numbers, the question that begins to form in one's mind is, how is it that with these kind of numbers, we are getting so much fear mongering and so much information that's feeding into hysteria and paranoia? And what is the benefit, right? There was you can look it up. There was this mistake that CNN did, posting pictures of hospitals and saying, oh, look how terrible all of this stuff is, which in some places it definitely is, like New York. However, people called them out on it and said, this is not a picture from where you're saying it is a picture from. This is actually a picture from a different country. And they're like, oh, sorry, our bad. But you know, they didn't say anything about it until they got called out on it. So there's very interesting things that are happening that all kind of boil down to the question of, like, what is the benefit of creating so much fear and so much paranoia out of a situation that is not necessarily as dire numbers wise? If you look at, again, all these other things like malaria, alcohol, suicides, smoking, what is happening in the world and who is benefiting from it. So I'll link up Worldometer. And then another thing that I encourage you to look into is ID 2020. And I'm just going to leave it at that so you can kind of research what it is and maybe look up some articles. Very, very interesting information. And the timing of this lockdown with the timing of the launch of ID 2020 is also something that raises a lot of questions in people who are thinking about these kind of things. So the bottom line question that I think we all should be asking ourselves is, what is this here to teach us? Like, what is the lesson that we're getting? We are having an opportunity to slow down. We are having an opportunity to see things that we were too busy to see before. What is this here to teach us on the individual level as well as on the collective level? There is a really cool passage from an article published by a health influencer that I really respect. She's saying, yes, it is very true that there is a virus right now that is something that we've never quite dealt with before, and it appears to be spreading by double with each day. What it's doing, it's looking for hosts. It's looking for humans that are stressed, inflamed, overweight, anxious, drugged, toxic loaded, unprepared, government reliant, and fear filled. So the question that each of us should be asking ourselves is how to not be a good host. And this is where these recommendations that I will share with you today are coming in terms of saying, hey, how do you make sure you organize your life at this time, and you organize your health and you organize your routines so that you feel empowered, you feel in charge, and you know that you are not going to be a good host for the virus that is going around, for the fear mongering that is going around, for the types of misinformation that are going around. And so the very first thing that I would like to address is this idea of us having the opportunity to slow down and really doing so. It can be very challenging at this time, because there was an article I posted from the New Yorker earlier, how there's still this sort of, our society is so actively focused on efficiency and productivity and doing so much that it's now seeping even into this quarantine. And another health influencer that I really like, Lee, she had this post that really spoke to me that said, a quarantine is not a creative retreat. Like, don't make people feel like they need to be so productive at this time. Here's this cooking class, and here's this, and here's this, and you should take up, embroidery and knitting, and here's all these house projects, and you need to redo your whole house during this. Like, this is not a creative retreat. Stop putting pressure on people who are already dealing with so much on the physical and emotional level to also make them feel like they need to be so productive during this time. This creates a lot of pressure, a lot of additional stress on individuals who are already stressed because of worrying about everything that is going on. There's a really wonderful podcast called School of Greatness, and one of the recent guests on that podcast, Devon Franklin, he's a well-known preacher and life coach, and he was saying, he said some very powerful things about fear and anxiety and worry, and he said, whether you worry or not, the outcome of the situation doesn't change if it's out of your control. If it is in your control, then worry and anxiety about it will actually worsen the outcome, because you're spending a lot of precious resources in your mind and in your body on worrying rather than tackling this thing head on. So the first thing we're going to address with some of these recommendations is going to be stress. Bruce Lipton, who is a cell biologist, who is, he's basically the father of epigenetics. He's the person who said, I'm going to take this idea that our mind affects our body, and I'm going to prove it scientifically. I'm going to cook it up in a petri dish, and I'm going to prove it and scientifically show you that this mind-body connection is absolutely true. And he has based his entire life's work on that. And he is the one who's also saying, like, the last thing we need right now is fear and stress, because we all know that the first system of the body that stress affects is the immune system. It lowers down our defenses. It lowers down our ability to withstand the attack from the environment on the physical level, on the energetic level, on the emotional level, on the mind and information level. So how do we address this, right? How do we stay anchored in the neutral mind, as it's a term I heard from Elena Brower, and I really love it. How do we stay in the neutral mind, and instead of worrying about things that are out of our control, we proactively work on things that are in our control? One of the really good books that I have found to be helpful during this time is this book called Moodtopia. It's written by Sarah Hannah Silverstein. She is a registered master herbalist. She's registered with the American Herbalist Guild. And this entire book is on natural ways of reducing stress in our life and natural ways of being in a better state of mind. And she recommends a lot of herbs and essential oils to help us be on our best terms with our body, with our immune system, with our mind. And so the way she recommends starting to work on your mind, to work on de-stressing, is actually to start with cleansing the body. And she says that the state of our gut, the state of our liver, have huge effects on how calm and peaceful our mind is. And even more fitting and more perfect is that we are now in the spring season. And this is another really, really wonderful book. We went through it in yoga teacher training, and it's called Staying Healthy with the Seasons. And it pulls together thousands of years of traditional Chinese medicine. And for springtime, it calls spring the time of the spring cleaning. The element of the season is wood, and the organs that are the most in need of support are the liver and the gallbladder. So this time right now is ideal time for us, both on the physical and on the emotional level, to clear out toxins, to do the spring cleaning of the body. There's this quote from the Staying Healthy with the Seasons that really speaks to me. Most illnesses are a result of excess toxins. So excess toxicity in the body is what makes us a really good host for toxic viruses, for toxic information, for toxic emotions, for toxic energies. So physical, mental, and emotional unusable materials in the body. I love that when they talk about toxins, they talk about mental toxins, emotional toxins, energetic toxins. Healing is the elimination or cleansing of these toxins and then achieving a balance of intake and output. This is brilliant. This is the idea that maintaining a natural balance in our body is what keeps us from being a good host for all these toxic things on all these different levels: physical, emotional, energetic, mental. So how can we focus on liver and gallbladder? How can we do better, right? How can we do better in cleansing these areas of the body? So there are a lot of natural substances that are wonderful in helping us cleanse things that support the function of the gallbladder. Apples, apple juice, apple cider vinegar uh, are really helpful for gallbladder function. Olive oil is a great nutritive, so adding olive oil and apple cider vinegar as your salad dressings with some of these spring greens. I've been going out and foraging dandelion greens and wild mustard and chickweed. Dandelions are everywhere right now. They're super easy to identify. Like, you don't need to be a master herbalist to be able to be like, that's a dandelion. The flowers are edible. The root is edible. The leaves are edible. Like, dig up the entire plant, roast the root, make coffee out of it. Dandelion coffee is delicious and a great replacement for regular coffee. Dandelion flowers, you can take any kind of batter that you like, pancake batter, whatever, and you can make little dandelion fritters. Leaves go into the salad. This whole thing, they call it a noxious weed. It's the most amazing plant out there. The whole thing is edible, and the whole thing is supportive for the detox of liver and gallbladder. It's amazing. Fresh lemon and lemon water, licorice, milk thistle. There's so many herbs that are supportive for our liver and gallbladder for the detoxification of the body. Some other specific things that Sarah Hannah Silverstein recommends for supporting of the liver are artichoke leaves, burdock root, and again, dandelion and milk thistle. One of my favorite recipes is to go and dig up a bunch of dandelion root and burdock root and chop them up and roast them in the oven. And then you can grind them and use them as a coffee replacement. And it's nutty and yummy. It doesn't give you that high and crash. You're doing a really good job. Burdock root is really high in inulin, which is prebiotic fiber, which is what the good bacteria in your gut feeds on. And then dandelion is highly detoxifying and supportive for the gallbladder function. So you can't lose. If you don't want to go out and forage these things, there's brands out there like Ticino that make coffee alternatives with burdock root and dandelion root. Like, these things are available out there. So starting out with removing the toxicity out of the body is incredible. And I'll share a couple of other things that are helpful with that as we go on. But then as you move the toxins out of the body, something that is really helpful to start incorporating are adaptogen herbs. Adaptogen herbs are really wonderful, and they their name sort of speaks to their function. They help us adapt to the stressors of the environment. They are incredible in their function because they go into the body and they elevate the functions that need to be elevated and sedate the functions that are overactive, like too much inflammation. So they really have this adaptable function in the body to help bring the body to a balance. And so incorporating as many adaptogens as possible into your diet right now, as we're experiencing all this stress, is huge. So some of the most popular sort of easily accessible adaptogens are ashwagandha, cordyceps, tulsi or holy basil, making tea out of that. It's so yummy. Rhodiola and schizandra berry. And they can be used during different times for different purposes. Now, specifically for the herbs for mood and stress, these are the things that Sarah Hannah Silverstein recommends, broken down by the different mood categories. These are the herbs that are very safe, Easy to start with for individuals who don't have any experience with herbs, any exposure to herbs. So if you are experiencing more sort of anxiety, stress, kind of heightened emotional state, fresh milky oats, skullcap, bacopa, and vervain are really wonderful herbs to start with. If you're sort of, your experience is sort of on the lower end of the spectrum, towards sadness and sort of these lower, rather than anxiety and heightened emotional state, you're experiencing more like a lower emotional state. Tulsi or holy basil, motherwort, St. John's wort. Again, these things are fairly easy to find. One of my favorite sources for herbs is, if it's not available from my herb school teacher, and I can't just support a local herbalist, mountain rose herbs. You'll be able to find all these things on there, and they're sourcing them very ethically, very sustainably, very responsibly. A grumpy mood, when you're sort of in this place of not being able to accept the current situation and grumpiness, chamomile, valerian, motherwort, skullcap. Experience of brain fog, not wanting to get out of bed in the morning, feeling super unmotivated, rosemary, and you can use both the herb or the essential oil. Essential oil is wonderful for brain function stimulation. Eleuthero and Schisandra berry. Schisandra is very activating for the brain. Feeling burnout and exhaustion. This is where you're going to reach out for rhodiola. All adaptogens are really good for burnout and exhaustion. Also ashwagandha and fresh milky oats. Trouble sleeping. A lot of times when we are thrown out of our routines like we are right now, we are not experiencing very good quality sleep, which is super important. California poppy, lemon balm, or melissa, again, either herb or essential oil, linden, and passion flower are going to be very safe herbs to turn to help you get a good night's sleep. And another one that we don't necessarily think about much, but hormonal balance and libido support, to still be able to experience the balance and the joy of life. Damiana, ashwagandha, rose, and mimosa are the things that she recommends to support that area of our life. So we are still feeling proper hormonal balance, proper levels of oxytocin or the bonding hormone, so we can coexist very peacefully with family members with whom we are now stuck at home for prolonged periods of time. Now, in terms of aromatherapy, so her book is really good. I love Sarah Hannah because as an herbalist, she's also very open to and really supports the usage of essential oils. She recommends both herbs and essential oils to support ourselves. She says specifically for stressful times, which oils do you choose? If you have insomnia, are waking frequently at night, or feeling restless and tense during the day, turn to chamomile, marjoram, neroli, sandalwood, vetiver, or ylang-ylang. If you're feeling anxious and unable to relax, basil, bergamot, frankincense, geranium, jasmine, juniper berry, lavender, lemon balm, or melissa, neroli, or ylang-ylang. If your anxiety has morphed into depression and low moods and you need an emotional pick-me-up, reach for bergamot, clary sage, geranium, grapefruit, lavender, lemon, or vetiver. If you're suffering from nervous tension, add a few drops of any of the following oils to a carrier oil and massage into the back of your hands: bergamot, cedarwood, cinnamon, clary sage, geranium, jasmine, lavender, sandalwood, ylang-ylang. If you're struggling with brain fog, basil, eucalyptus, any of the mints, spearmint, peppermint, or rosemary, again, for brain function support. And again, for hormonal balance, libido support, jasmine, neroli, patchouli, rose, or ylang-ylang. So these are our ways of feeling empowered and support ourselves in the times of stress. Cleanse out the liver, support the liver and the gallbladder. Spring is the season to do that according to traditional Chinese medicine. Reach out for adaptogen herbs. reach out for mood boosting herbs and mood boosting essential oils. Aromatherapy is incredible. It's the fastest way. Herbs are wonderful as well, but the fastest way to reach your brain is through your olfactory system. So aromatherapy really shines here. The second thing I wanted to talk about is sleep. We need to sleep a lot. Again, this kind of goes back to this idea of not having to feel like this is a creative retreat and you need to be like two times as productive and do all these things. It's okay to take a nap every day. It's okay to sleep more, because this is what allows your body to recuperate against physical stress, emotional stress, mental stress, and process things. We already talked about herbs and essential oils that help with good night's sleep, but sleep hygiene is huge. I know that for me, it's been really hard because we don't have the regular routine we did before, but waking up and going to sleep at the same time or near the same time is really huge. I can't stress this enough. Turning off your electronic devices, not being exposed to electronic devices. It is so, about an hour before bed, it is so incredibly tempting to keep watching Netflix until you go to bed. And there's days when I've done that. And, me and my husband, we just wanted to watch a movie, and it's a long movie, and we just watch it, and then we go to bed, and like I close my eyes and I can almost like feel the effects of the blue light on my retina, and I'm not able to go to sleep. And thankfully I can reach out for my oils at that time. But like, then you're just like, why did I do this to myself? Or scrolling through the screens. Blue light is, it's harmful, but it's also tricking your brain, because the only other place we get blue spectrum light from is the sun. And so if you're looking at blue spectrum light before bed, it tricks your brain, it tricks your circadian rhythm into keeping you awake, because it thinks it's the middle of the day. And so then you're restless and you can go to sleep, and then you wake up and you're groggy, and then you're in a bad mood the whole day, and then you watch the news and it gets you more stressed. It's a vicious cycle. So having that sleep hygiene is really important. If there's any chance you can trade that TV time or screen time for a book or a walk or a bath, those are my favorites. Some Epsom salt with baking soda to detox the body and relax the muscles, and I'll put some relaxing essential oils in there. And it doesn't have to be long, just 10-15 minutes just to soak in there. And then you slide into bed, and it's incredible. It's such a great way to help yourself and take really good care of yourself. The next item that I wanted to stress is movement. And Ange Peters, who's the health influencer that I really respect, the one from Canada, from whom I read this quote earlier, how not to, the question we need to ask ourselves is how to not be a good host. She says this thing, give yourself the gift of daily movement. And I absolutely love the way that she phrases it. It's a gift to your body, and it's a gift to your mind. It's a gift to your immune system. The staying healthy with the season stresses it out as well. For springtime, for detoxing, sweating every day is huge. It's your choice. Running, a power walk, dancing, just a little bit of jump rope. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you get yourself to sweat every day. You are positioning yourself so much better to be able to withstand the barrage of things that are trying to make you their host. So protect yourself through exercise. In addition to the physical benefits of detoxing through sweat and boosting your immune system, this is something that is also going to help strengthen your respiratory system, especially doing interval things like hill sprints or stair sprints or something like that, where your lungs have to work really hard. We need to protect our lungs, right? This is the first thing that this virus attacks, and it's one of the organs that we really need to be mindful of right now. Is so it supports your lungs, but also there's so many mental and emotional benefits of exercise. The release of endorphins, that shot of dopamine into your system, the serotonin release, like all these things that make us happier and make us feel so much better about ourselves, make us feel more accomplished throughout our day. and giving yourself the routine, the anchor of the routine that keeps you going, even though things are constantly shifting. It is up to you to create those anchors and still feel steady and grounded and stable. And a daily movement ritual or daily movement practice can be one of those anchors that are very, very helpful. Um, Another thing that I wanted to emphasize are supplements. And, I take my doTERRA Lifelong Vitality Pack. That's my sort of base supplementation of choice. I also have been going heavy with my PB Assist, which is a probiotic. Our immune system starts in the gut. So we've been, in my home, we've been taking the PB Assist, and we've been doing a lot of extra probiotic foods like sauerkraut and pickles. I went and foraged some red buds yesterday, and I pickled them. So in a couple days, I'm going to have pickled red buds. You can pickle anything, and it turns into a probiotic food. One of the simplest things to do is take a jar, shave some ginger in there, put a little bit of honey in there, put a piece of cloth or cheesecloth over it, set it on the counter for a couple of days. You're getting yourself a fermented drink. Like this doesn't have to be complicated, but and then you can change flavors and add flavors and things like that. Another big staple that we have been doing are the On Guard soft gels. Taking On Guard internally, very powerful as part of our daily supplementation to keep ourselves protected and keep ourselves healthy, keep our immune system sort of on high readiness level day in and day out. But there's, if you're feeling especially run down, boosting your vitamin C intake, especially the lipospheric vitamin C, is also very, very helpful. I've just been buying up like big bags of lemon, lime, orange, and grapefruit, and just juicing them. And I don't have a fancy juicer. I just have like the little things where you have to like press it and squeeze it, but it's totally worth the effort. And then just drinking a lot of that, making little, what are they called? The electrolyte drinks with the juice and then water, a little bit of maple syrup, and some pink salt, and mixing that up together, adding a drop of two of any like lemon or wild orange or clementine or tangerine essential oil, and mixing that all together and drinking that after our workout. And you can definitely feel a really good boost to your system when you do that. So super simple things. And then if you're feeling especially run down, some of the things that I recommend reaching out for are elderberry syrup. I use the one from Gaia Herbs. It's a very good company. Elderberry syrup is very, very helpful. Anything echinacea that you can get your hands on. I'm taking echinacea tincture from my herb school teacher, but you can buy echinacea herb on mountain rose herbs and make tea. Echinacea is very supportive to the immune system. Another one that I've been really enjoying is this blend. Again, it's from Gaia Herbs. I like this company. It's called the Immune Shine blend. And it has maitake, chaga, elderberry, and ginger. And this is a powder, and I add it to my smoothies, and it makes it really nice to use. Next item that we need to keep in mind in terms of not being a good host is nutrition. And this is one of the things we have the most power over these days. It was very interesting when our state first went on lockdown, and I went to the grocery store, and I was kind of nervous because I was hearing on the news how all the stores are out of everything. And I walked around and all my things were still there. And I was just, I was joking with my husband. I was like, hey, the hipsters will survive because all the healthy things were still there. The Nutella jars were gone. The mac and cheese boxes were gone. The crackers, the milk, the meat, the coconut milk was still there. The almond milk was still there. The regular milk was gone. And I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't drink milk or should or shouldn't eat gluten or anything like that, but the choices people have made under pressure of fear and panic have shown their, this is when you go into the grocery store, this is where you make your biggest decision, whether you're going to take responsibility for your health and not be a good host, or you're just going to, just let it all go and just hope that, that somebody out there is going to save you and outsource your health to a handout from the pharmacy. Like that's like that trip to Kroger was shocking to me, because it was like, okay, all of the high fructose pancake corn syrup is gone, all of the Nutella is gone, like all these things that are highly inflammatory foods were gone, and all the things that were probiotic and healthy. And like we went to the baking section because my husband was like, okay, I need some cookies. I was like, okay, that's fair, and all of the cookie mixes were gone except for the gluten-free ones. And I was like, what is up with this? Making choices in terms of our nutrition is so important. Focusing on whole foods. And I don't know, I was really happy to see, I was like, all my stuff is still there. All my healthy gluten-free bread and, non-dairy milk and non-dairy yogurt and all of my sauerkraut, like all my stuff is still there. Oh, and it was very interesting to just observe like I said, the types of decisions that people are making under this fear and panic environment that's being created. And again, the question begets why. Who benefits? Who benefits from this panic? Who benefits from people making even unhealthier decisions that are pushing them even further into relying on somebody else to keep themselves healthy? Like those are really big questions right now. Hydration's huge. Drink your body weight in ounces of water to support this sort of spring cleaning of your body. Some of the things I would recommend, it's really good. Add a splash of liquid chlorophyll to it. It's an internal, they call it the internal deodorant, but liquid chlorophyll is very cleansing for your body. Lemon juice, or I add a couple of drops of lemon essential oil into my stainless steel water bottle and make sure I drink that. And so you're keeping your body running like a well-oiled machine, or in this case, a well-watered machine. It's, we're made of water. Our cells are 99% water. It's not rocket science. When we get dehydrated, we get hungrier. So we eat more, we eat unnecessary amounts of food. We get really grumpy. Our brain starts suffering because it's drying out, as all these things are happening when we are not properly hydrated. Specific respiratory system support, right? We do know that a lot of what the current virus is doing is attacking specifically the respiratory system. And this is where a lot of folks are having issues. So paying particular attention to your respiratory system support is huge at this time to, again, just be empowered and be in control of what you can control. So exercise, things like, interval things that really train your respiratory system, hill sprints, high intensity interval training, really good for supporting your lung capacity and making sure your lungs are strong and trained well. From the yoga world, breath work techniques known as pranayama, extension of the life force, as it's known. A lot of different ones you can just look up online, breathwork techniques from yoga. It's super simple, but you can benefit greatly from expanding your lung capacity through those techniques. They're readily available. There's thousands of YouTube videos, thousands of articles out there on yogic breathing techniques. Try them out. You can do them. You have you and your breath with you always. It's you can do it in while doing your dishes or anything else. And then I have specifically been incorporating more the oils that are very supportive for the respiratory system. That would be eucalyptus, peppermint, spearmint, cardamom, bay leaf, lemon. With doTERRA specifically, Breathe blend is super powerful. It has like all of those things already in them. It has lemon, bay leaf, peppermint, eucalyptus, cardamom. It's already in there. There is a one of the ladies on our larger essential practice team under Elena Brower. She had the virus, and she said that the thing that pretty much saved her was putting like 20 drops of Breathe into the diffuser and literally just sitting on top, like over the with her face over the diffuser and just constantly breathing that in. And she said that whenever she ran out of Breathe, like started running out of Breathe and just adding less, she could definitely feel the difference. So those things are very powerful for supporting the respiratory system, opening up the airways, and just cleaning out your lungs, right? Oils are known as antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. Essential oils are the immune system of the plant. That's what they are. That's what they do for the plant. That's what they do for us. So if I had to have just like 8 oils that I could use during this time, I would rely heavily on On Guard. Again, a lot of the On Guard products have been in short supply because people are buying them up, but the oil itself is available, and you can make a roller yourself. You can make the capsules yourself. It's not a big deal. DDR Prime, which is cellular support blend. And DDR Prime has, oh my God, it has everything in it for detox, for cellular support, has frankincense, has celery, like geranium, everything's in there to support the good functioning of the body. I would have my rose roller close by for sure. Rose is very, very powerful for immune support. We normally think of rose as mostly, oh, it's, nice smell. It's kind of a personal perfume. It's nice for the emotions. It's nice for the skin, but it has very, very powerful support for the immune system. There was a story that Emily Wright, one of the founders of doTERRA, shared. They had a birthday party, and there was some kind of a bug in the inflatable bouncy house, and the kids started getting these terrible lesions on their body. And when they took them to the doctor recommended bleach baths, to put kids in baths with bleach to get this bacteria or virus out. And she really didn't want to do that, so she started putting rose on them, and it took care of that. So she doesn't share this story publicly because it's not compliant language, but it happened. Copaiba. Copaiba is the oil that works with the endocannabinoid system in the body, super supportive for our immune health. Oregano, super supportive for the immune health as well. Eucalyptus or peppermint or spearmint, like one of those three for respiratory support. Frankincense for immune and support with the cellular support, and Melissa. I have 2 bottles of Melissa, and I've been going through them super, super fast because of the emotional support. And also any herbalist will tell you that lemon balm or Melissa is one of the most powerful antiviral plants out there that we have. So when we have it in the concentration of the essential oil, it's very powerful. So what I've been doing when I've been feeling a little kind of like, I went to the grocery store and I'm just kind of feeling a little iffy. I would take an empty veggie capsule, add 2 drops of oregano and 2 drops of Melissa. And I learned that from Elena Brower. She's been doing that as well. And it's been incredibly powerful. Like just, a couple hours later, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever that little tickle was in the back of my throat or whatever that iffy feeling I was having, that's gone. So these are my recommendations on not being a good host. Taking care of yourself, asking the right questions, taking radical responsibility for our lifestyles. Another thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning, it's going to be sort of the last thing. If you look at the worldometer, it's really interesting to see because as the number of reported deaths from the virus has been going up, the number of reported deaths from other chronic diseases has been magically going down. And so that also sort of begets a question, what is the common denominator in this thing affecting people in the most negative way? Why is it some people have no symptoms at all? Why is it that some people have very severe symptoms? And my suspicion is that lifestyle has a really huge role to play in whether somebody becomes severely affected or not affected at all. And our lifestyles are in our power. And this is, again, we can worry about something we have no power and control over, or we can focus on things we have control and power over, and that's our lifestyle. That's how we treat ourselves. That's the food choices we make, that's supplementation choices we make, hydration choices we make, movement, plant medicine choices we make. And so I encourage you to take that radical responsibility for your health and not be a good host. Okay. Let me stop the recording.